they have ActionScript 3 now, but it was too complicated looking for me, so I just jumped into ActionScript 2, and that's what my game is based on. Okay, now the process that I went through for making this game. I started off this with absolutely no knowledge of ActionScript or making games with Flash, so I just started digging around and Googling Flash ActionScript, ActionScript Flash gaming tutorials, all this nonsense, and here are 3 tutorials that I use mostly for putting my game together, and I'll show you. Here's one that I used for the background of my game. You saw it scrolling. This is actually a tutorial I found for Red Ring of Death. There we go. Okay. For scrolling background on a banner like that, you see. I went through this tutorial, took the code that they gave me, and modified it, switched some things around, like the X and Y values, so that would scroll from vertically, top to bottom, instead of left to right. And that worked just about perfectly for making a scrolling background. I had hoped to, at some point, make it so it was continuous like that, but I haven't been able to figure that out yet. Once I show you some of the ActionScript, you'll be able to understand how complicated it can get. Let me see here. Here is another. Here's a site that I used for how I made my spaceship move with all the arrow key inputs. Emanuele Ferranato, the Italian geek and programmer, has a lot of good tutorials online. And if you're doing anything Flash related, I would suggest checking out that stuff, because it's all very professional. But this is an older one of her tutorials I found for making this guy in ActionScript. Let me show you. This is where I learned the ActionScript to make a character move all with all kinds of inertia effects. And it's probably the biggest thing I like in my game. I'll take you through what all this code means in a little while. Here's another one. For pretty much everything else, like making the bad guys, I use this tutorial. It's a several part one that I found on tutorialized.com. Very easy to use, but in this tutorial I went through the whole thing and it only made my guy move left and right. Of course that's not what I wanted, so I started realizing that I had to take all these different parts of different tutorials and put it all together and make something that was my own. Okay, moving on. Now I'm going to go through some of the code with you and show you how ActionScript is a language. And by language I mean just like English or Spanish. But it's a little different than normal language because ActionScript is very picky. I mean, if you're talking to your friend and you forget to, if you pronounce a word wrong, they'll still probably understand you. They might laugh at you a little bit, but in ActionScript, if you do anything from put a question mark instead of a period, it will freak out and nothing will work. It is nonsense. It's the closest thing to the Nazi regime on computers. It's incredibly picky. Anyways, go to Window, Actions. Let's see here. Here we go. This is the code that I put directly on my ship. First off, these are some variables that load when you start up the game. I've tinkered around with these some to try and make my ship go faster and slower and all this kind of stuff, and it's been fun. And just like English or any other language, ActionScript uses these kind of sentence things. Like this says, on clip event, that means that the clip that I'm on, which is my ship, every time that it enters the frame, it's going to check all these things. Every single frame. Like, bam, 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 bam. Because it does like 30 frames per second, so it's pretty incredible. Every 30 times per second, it checks this list. And if any one of these things is going on, then it'll do that. Here, this is pretty easy to understand. If the down key, if the left key is down, then it will subtract X pixels speed. It means it'll start accelerating with negative X values. And X, if you've taken any kind of math or geometry course, is your left and right plane. Left is negative and right is positive. So if you have the left key down, your ship will start to accelerate to the left. Same thing here. If the right key is down, it will start accelerating positively to the right on the x-axis. Here's the same thing, except you see it's on the y-axis. If the up key is up, it'll start to accelerate upwards. And here, ooh, this is crazy looking. If the space key is down, and if the timer does not equal, if the timer is equal to 0, then it will attach the movie bullet to the ship, and that bullet will move upwards with a speed of 20. And then if the Y value of that bullet is more than negative 30, then it will delete this movie clip. That means that if it gets off the frame, it will delete that. That way you don't have infinite number of bullets still going in the movie clip that you can't even see, and all it would do is slow down your thing and your project and make it very slow and naughty. And again, like I mentioned on that timer, this thing has an internal timer running. So for every 5 frames that it runs, that timer will revert back to 0, and when that timer equals 0, then it'll play this bit of action script again, which will shoot another bullet. That gives me an interval so that when I hold down the space bar, every 5 frames, this action script will run again, shooting a new bullet.